today, and I'll let the panelists do a quick introduction of themselves. And before I start, I would just like to acknowledge that we are on the land of the Alabama Kashara, Caddo, Carrizo, Gomigrulo, Cojutecan, Comanche, Kickapoo, Lipan Apache, Togawa, Isleta del Sur, Pueblo, and all of the American Indian and Indigenous peoples and communities who have been part of these lands and territories in Texas. So yeah, without further ado, would love to introduce and hear a little bit more about our panelists today. First,
Hello, that's better. All right, so my name is Maëlle Sherry. I am originally from Haiti. I hold a Master in Behavioral Science, and I live in Austin, Texas now. So I know a lot about immigration and immigrant stories. Coming from Haiti in 2007, me and my family, my parents are here today as well, so we all flee the chaos in Haiti. So I know firsthand what it's like, and I'm very excited to be part of this event. I couldn't say no, even though I'm ready to pop out, but I was like, I have to be here to share my story. I'm now I am an influencer on social media. I'm very focal when it comes to politics and immigrant stories. So I'm excited to be here and to share my stories with you all.
Hi everyone, my name is Edna. I am one of the co-executive directors of American Gateways. We provide immigration and legal services in Central Texas to individuals who can't afford private representation. I'm very excited to be here today to share my perspective as well. I'm an immigrant from South Korea. I immigrated here in the 70s, and so the experience that I have is very different from the experience of more recent immigrants and the clients that I serve as well too. And so it's a real kind of example of how the immigrant story has changed over the years and how it's different for a variety of different folks from different areas as well. I've been practicing immigration law for 22 years, and it has changed a great deal in, I would say, over like the past 10 years, but especially from when I first started practicing. So I'm very thrilled to be here, to be with these wonderful panelists and to share my perspective as well.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sebastian Treviño. I am an immigration attorney with Catholic Charities of Central Texas. I am mostly on the affirmative side of that department. I'm originally from El Paso, Texas. I graduated from UT Austin and Thurgood Marshall School of Law. So I've seen firsthand as well, being a descendant of migrants and living in El Paso, I've seen the changes of being so close to a border and to what we are seeing now. And again, I'm excited to speak with everybody about the topic of immigration and misinformation.
Yeah, thank you all so much. And yeah, just to start addressing today's date and also just the current media landscape. So as my first question for you all is, as the U.S. shifts its focus from Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day, how can we connect the fight for Indigenous rights with the broader struggle for immigration justice? And I know that's a hard question, but just hearing, just would love to hear any personal input. I'm not looking for anything super in-depth. Just would love to hear what you guys all have to say.
Yeah. Thank you for the softball question. It's really interesting because I love the videos that Maëlle put up because it is a very short, brief, succinct history of immigration in the United States, which prior to folks coming and pushing out Indigenous individuals is one of exclusion, right? I mean, it's exclusion from when people came to push out Indigenous folks as well too, and saying this is now our land. And if you look at that plus what immigration is today, I think there are a lot of correlations. And I think that there are correlations that oftentimes aren't recognized, and I think that's part of this conversation, right? Is when we talk about immigration and misinformation, when we talk about social justice and race in the United States, it is oftentimes conversations where folks are siloed right? Based on your race, based on your socioeconomic status, your immigration status, and instead of seeing the connections overall, especially in a social justice context, right? For communities that have been oppressed for a number of years. And so, at least for me, this turn of Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day is a small step forward, but it's hopefully one that will also spark conversation about all of the connections of the injustices that have happened for so long and what we can do to start remedying those as well.
When I first moved to America, that's when I learned mostly about Indigenous people in Haiti. We weren't taught not much about that in school. So I decided to do my own research and watch films and documentary and read about that. And of course I learned about that in high school. So I definitely take, how can I say that? Even though our story is not quite the same, I can relate and understand what they went through. And yes, converting it today is, I think, is an amazing, and it's a small step. We also have to celebrate the small victories as well. So I too am happy that it's, it's not just that we're celebrating Columbus Day as well. So it makes me happy. Yeah.
I think they said it really well. I'll just leave it briefly. It is a small step forward, especially to what a lot of Indigenous people have gone through. At least we're moving forward to show them some recognition, not to phase them out or to forget them. It's a really positive step forward where we're actually being more inclusive to what a lot of the founding people who lived there before we migrated with the 13 colonies. So it's a small step forward, really briefly.
Yeah, thank you all so much. And just to touch on another relevant topic, so it is Hispanic Heritage Month, and I would love to hear a little bit about how maybe we can use Hispanic Heritage Month to help raise awareness about the struggles of all immigrants today.
So with the Hispanic Heritage Month, I feel like right now, since we're in the election season, we are seeing a lot of heightened rhetoric about what Hispanics or migrants are. It's really good to know about the stories of migrants and what they may be going through. As the video said, 30% of the migrants are undocumented. So for them to live a good life in the United States is really hard. With Hispanic Heritage Month, we should be able to look at the stories of the people who are struggling, be a community towards them, open up arms. I was speaking with Isaac with Amplify about how we can help them open bank accounts, be a productive member of society, and not, I guess, kick them when they're at the lowest. So with Hispanic Heritage Month, it's a good opportunity to know of the different struggles that a lot of people are going through.
I think we have to also give space to highlight their contribution in society, right? Hispanic people contribute to the economy, right? In the US, they pay taxes as well. So I think we have to celebrate those moments. There's their stories, because if you don't hear their story, then you can't actually relate to them. So there has to be a way where we give them the opportunity to talk about their struggles, what they've been through, how did they get here, why are they here, what's the reason, what are they fleeing back home? And then from there, we can actually relate, we can empathize with them. So, yeah.
So the only thing that I will add is, I don't think it should be a month. I love all the heritage months and the recognition months, but I think the conversation should be carried through. And I think one of the key things about Hispanic Heritage Month, or any of the months that celebrate different groups, right, is an ability to open up a conversation about the diversity within that group, right? Some people don't really like the term Hispanic, and they don't want it to be used. And so what does that mean for those individuals, and why don't they want that used, in the history of that as well? And I think months like this are good to open up those conversations and not have what we currently have when we talk about certain groups or immigration, this monolithic, like, they're all Hispanic, they're all Asian, they're all, you know, whatever, and saying that their experience is the same. And I think the month can be used to really look at different perspectives, celebrate those perspectives and their histories as well, but also realize the diversity within the group that we're celebrating and how that contributes to our current society and what impacts that has as well.
Yeah, all great input. Thank you so much. And I think it feels, at least, not to speak for everyone, but just it does feel like it's getting harder and harder to feel like we are having these open and honest dialogues, especially given the rise in misinformation and disinformation in shaping public opinion. And so that kind of leads me into my next question concerning election season. And so how can we ensure that discussions around immigration policy and immigration itself, particularly concerning Haitian immigrants and Latin American communities, just in respect to the current media landscape, while also acknowledging that all marginalized communities are greatly affected by this shift in public opinion? And so how can we make sure that discussions around immigration are grounded in truth and compassion rather than fear and prejudice?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked this question. That is an amazing question, especially for us Haitian right now, as well as Hispanics. We all are going through the same thing, but though, as you can see in the most recent news, we were called dog eaters and cat eaters when it's actually not accurate. So these are some of the things that hurts a lot as a Haitian who came from Haiti because we were faced with, we had no other choice, pretty much. If you know the story of Haiti, we've always had political turmoil, we've always had chaos, there's always something that we're running away from. So we came here for a better life, pretty much. For me personally, my story was in April 2007, right before we came to the U.S., gang members broke into our house and they raped, they shot and tried to kill family members. So it's, how can I put this? It's not that we are here just to take someone's job or just to, I don't know how to put it, but we are fleeing something that we cannot stop, which is the violence from home. So how do we stop, people from calling us what we are not? Because we are not cat eaters or dog eaters. When I heard that for the first time, I was really stunned, and our whole family, we were shocked. I think we have to hold the political parties accountable for what they say. We also have to fact check, right? The misinformations that are going. Don't believe everything that you see on social media. Don't believe everything that you hear on TV either, because it's most likely it's not going to be true. You have to be responsible to fact check your sources, right? Listen to different news outlets, especially the ones that are reputable. So yeah, I would say you can also help stop the spreading of the misinformation by doing these things, fact-checking, and try to relate to the Haitian community. You can also do your own research as well to understand why we're here and research some of the foods that we eat as well. Please, because we eat amazing food. We have great food. Believe me when I say we do. We have great food, so you can do your own research as well.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and I'm sorry for the way that your community is being treated and your family. Let's see. So it is another softball question, which is lovely, but I think that that's the whole point about like politics and the rhetoric that is going around now is that they're not easy conversations, and I think people. I want my life to be really easy, guys. I want things to be. I want my kids to listen to me. I don't want to have traffic on I-35. I want people to understand what I'm saying to them, not make assumptions about me. But that, unfortunately, is not how life works or how society works. And I think that people fall into this trap of believing things that are like kind of one-off things because it's easy and it makes them feel comfortable. Like these other people are like this, but I am not. The community bubble that I am in is not. And I think that's what spreads misinformation. Whereas if we as a society and a country instead had a more honest discussion about the history of immigration, our current society and the state of immigration and race, and all of the things that are difficult to talk about, we would be better off. People don't like to be uncomfortable, I totally get that, and they don't like to sit in discomfort. But oftentimes that is where growth happens and change happens. And so conversations like this, I think, are incredibly important, because if you're not uncomfortable, then I don't think that you are actually growing, and I think you're doing a disservice to not only yourself, but folks around you as well. And then on a personal level, I will say, growing up in the 70s in a very monolithic community of monotone community of white individuals, I was often given the question, I think because it was closer to the Korean War, of whether I ate dogs, because there was a whole thing about South Koreans eating dogs, and so it's the same kind of myths being perpetuated, and it's so easy to fall into those kind of traps as well too. So
we asked to take dogs.
But it's also, that's a conversation. We hold dogs in a different light here, but other folks, we eat cows, and there are some people who might be like, that's gross, why would you eat that dog? It's perspective as well. So, thank you, Daniel.
So when it comes to the misinformation going on, I've noticed that a lot of people don't question a lot of the information that's going on right now. So when I have a lot of my clients tell me, I saw this on social media, I saw this on TikTok, I have to remind them to not believe everything that they see, because they could get in trouble. For example, some do tell me that they want to vote, and I tell them you cannot vote until you become a U.S. citizen. But then they tell me, well, I saw this on TikTok and a lot of people are going to, and I told them it's not true. So we have not, I feel like when it comes to social media, to the media, we have not caught up with the times. We get our media now through our phones, tablets, smart devices. It's not how it used to be print-based. We do have radio, television, but the majority of people consume their news through their phone or tablet, right? And everybody, once you start watching a video, you may get into a rabbit hole where everything that you see, you want to agree with. And I feel that because of that, we have a lot of misinformation with what's going on with Haiti, with what's going on with the border in El Paso. There's a lot of people who do not want to question it, and they just want to feel that assurance that I saw this on TikTok, Facebook, and it's true. Rather than, okay, I'm seeing this, let me question this. What do I see on the news? What do I see on other sources? And I feel that we're being complacent where we just see one form of media and that's it. And that is unfortunately causing a lot of this misinformation, a lot of hate towards certain groups, certain people, just because they may not look like us, they may not speak with us, you speak with an accent, and we just have to go back to what they told us when we were in elementary school. Make sure you fact check. Where are your sources? And we have to just go back and have some sort of technology or social media literacy where we're able to consume our information better.
Yeah, absolutely. That was actually a perfect segue into what I was going to talk about next, which is specifically related to just like the speed and the strength in which all of this information is coming at us. So I just wanted to hear from all of you, especially Maëlle, because of your presence on social media. What role do you all think that media literacy can play in helping people recognize and reject false information, specifically surrounding immigration? But it can also be related to anything, but just media literacy and how that plays out in your experience.
So first of all, let's talk about media literacy, right? What is it? So it's pretty much, the ability for you to analyze, right, what you listen to or what you hear from the mass media, and to determine is it accurate or not. Okay, so think about that. I think for me personally, when I hear something on the news or when I see something on social media, the first thing I do is fact check. I make sure, I cannot stress this enough, I fact check because if let's say someone posts something and then I automatically take that and repost it without fact checking, I can hurt certain groups, right, certain community, especially if it's a lie, okay? So the first thing you need to do is fact check everything or anything that you see. Different news outlet as well. Listen to different news outlets. Don't listen to just one group. And for example, certain people prefer CNN, right? Others prefer Fox News or ABC. And it's totally okay, but fact check, listen to different news outlets to get the most accurate story. Because once you post something on social media, it is there forever. Even if you delete it, maybe after 3, 4, 5, 10 years, someone will find it. Someone will literally find what you posted or reposted, especially if it was not accurate. They will come back to haunt you. So in terms of immigration, in terms of what we're going through right now, especially the Haitian community as well as the Latin community, the Hispanic community and the border, there's so much misinformation. There is, we're being portrayed as what we are not, correct? So please fact check your information.
I'll stress this again. Please fact check. That's the most important thing that we can do. We saw in the presidential debate, one of the vice presidents, one of the nominees for vice president said, that's not the rules, you can't fact check, right? And I feel like that is not what we want to strive for. We want everything to be the truth. We don't want to live in alternative realities where we believe in conspiracy theories or whatever, but please fact check. That's the most important thing to combat misinformation. You may not agree with every little thing or every little opinion that somebody says, or you may not agree with a certain news channel, but do your due diligence. That's the most important thing that anybody can do to combat fact checking. There have been many, many examples where somebody may have posted something online, and because people take it and run with it, the context of that story or the video may have been altered, and somebody's life may have been ruined, or somebody's life may be altered in the long run. So we want to have the correct information to make sure that we're not hurting anybody in any way. And for immigration as well, we can see this with, well, again, I repeated this in my previous reply, but a lot of people, especially the immigrant community, they rely on social media because they may not have access to an attorney. They may have not access to somebody who knows the correct forms of probably getting a green card or applying for asylum or seeking refugee status. So it's really important, and I can't stress enough to please fact check.
Fact check.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And another thing I want to add is with AI right now, right? Anything is possible. We can create any sort of image and post it on social media, and sometimes it looks real, right? So how do you combat that? How do you go against an image that is created to make you believe, right? So again, fact check, double check, and I cannot stress this enough. Do not, post something that you find on social media quickly and without checking.
Do either of you have kind of some tangible steps that people can take in order to fact check their information?
I can repeat what Maëlle said. Make sure if you see a news source or something, you can Google and try to see that the information that you have read or have seen is the truth. You can go to your local library if you don't have access to the internet and ask a librarian to help you with the internet, or if there's something in a book that you're able to read and to check. But that would be probably one of the I guess in this day and age, is just to Google that story to make sure that it is an accurate story. If you find something that may be off or not accurate, then you're able to at least narrow down the story so you're not believing that something that is not true.
Yeah, and again, with media, with the news outlets, you can watch different, outlets. Don't just watch one. Watch different outlets to actually check your story against the other news outlet. So that's another way.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And it can definitely be really overwhelming, especially for people that didn't grow up in the digital age, how information is now being spread through social media, through individuals' platforms instead of these verified sources that we've been used to for centuries. And so my question for you all is, how can individuals use these platforms to promote factual and balanced discussions about immigration and democracy itself? And also, what strategies can everyday citizens use to help counter false narratives?
I will try. Right. So using new technologies, right? I'm probably not the best person for this, because when I went to college and I started as a freshman, they were like, we are introducing you to this thing called electronic mail. And so, yeah. But times change. We all have to change. I think sharing things on social media, like you can't avoid it, right? But checking what you're sharing, what's the link, where does it come from? But I think besides that, conversations are really important, guys. And I feel like sometimes that's the point that's missed, is like actually having like conversations with people. Your family, your friends, your neighbors, larger groups like this, taking the things that are discussed here and talking about it with other folks, I think is really important. I think I love like how fast it is to find things, that I can Google whatever I need, or I can like get takeout delivered, and I can do all this stuff, right? The convenience and all of that is great, but there's always a downside to speed and convenience, and I think that's something to keep in mind. And one of the downsides that I see a lot of, and especially in young folks, but not always in young folks, is like a disconnection to community, right? A disconnection to one another, and a disconnection and sometimes inability to have conversations about certain topics that we really do need to have more in-depth conversations about.
So for me, I've always been a fan of disclaimers. I feel that we should, to combat the misinformation or disinformation, there should be more disclaimers to be cautious with the AI, anything that may alter the truth. I feel that a disclaimer should be the norm now when you search anything on Google or on Facebook, TikTok. Just because, again, anybody can make a video and they could make it seem like, for example, with the Haitians, that they were eating the cats and the dogs, or the Venezuelans who took up the apartment in Colorado. Those have been proven as false information. And so we have to have disclaimers, or we have to have a communication with the community as well, where we question everything. We don't take everything for face value. We have to make sure that somehow we're able to combat this epidemic that's happening with the misinformation. That is a really hard question to keep answering, but I'll do my best.
I'll add just a little bit. We have to have open discussions respectfully, right? Open dialogues, especially with the younger generation of today. We also have to, I think I've mentioned that already, but I will say that again, to hold our political leaders accountable for what they say, for what they do, because we're talking about someone that the whole, literally, U.S. is listening to. So spreading misinformation can actually hurt a lot. So we have to hold our political leaders accountable for what they say and what they post as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for answering such a challenging question. I really appreciate it. And definitely, I'm really wondering, I think a lot of people right now feel pretty disillusioned with all of the information and how overwhelming all of this can be. And so I'm wondering from you guys, do you have any tips for especially young people to feel empowered in participating in civic life and also just having these discussions, especially with people who disagree? Just what tips would you give a young person in approaching these conversations?
I'll go first. Oh, thank you for the question. So for me, I think I try to think I can relate to the younger generation. I'm 31 years old, so I'm not too far off. So when I speak to my younger cousins or family members, I always tell them to get involved some way or another, just because I've seen where your vote matters. Even though people say I'm not going to vote because I don't see the difference, and we're literally saying the consequences of our actions or inactions for not voting. So just be involved some way, have your voice heard, even though not everybody's going to agree with your voice. At least your voice is known, and don't be afraid to. I'm a proponent of challenging and questioning everything. It's just something that was ingrained to me. I'm not saying to question everything in a bad way, but just be active in whatever way you can, even though they may have a small outcome. To some person that may be a big outcome, or may have a big effect. So just get involved whatever you can, and if you're 18, make sure to register. Our election is 20 days away, somewhere around there. So our actions do matter, so please get involved whatever way you can.
Okay, definitely, I would say voting for me is the #1 priority. It's super important that our younger generation are involved more, because sometimes they like that, they don't want to vote, they don't think it's important, and for them it's like, oh, I'll do it when I'm a little bit older. No, it's important now, especially this election. You must vote. I'm not telling you who to vote for. Do your own research, look around you, but you must register. Well, it's too late to register now, but please get involved. That's very important. And again, a panel discussion like this, these are important things that I think, the younger generation should attend and, learn as much as they can about what's going on around the world.
The only thing that I would add is that small actions matter. I think we've been told, and it's been ingrained somewhere along the line, that small actions don't matter, and I don't think that's true. I think social change happens through small actions, not through large, big protests kind of things. I think those grow out of small actions. And voting is one of the most powerful small actions that you can take. Because collectively, if we all do that one thing, then we have more power. And I think the information and misinformation that has gone around about voting and whether your voice matters or not is what has kind of fueled some of what we're in right now. People not voting, being real apathetic about voting and saying it doesn't matter, or I'm in Texas, it doesn't matter, like nationally, and that is not true. And the only way to actually change that is by doing that action. And look, you can register over there. Look at Claudia, she's got all the information.
Thank you, that's all so helpful. Definitely small actions absolutely matter. And I'm wondering what tips you have for the audience to be individually and collectively brave. So building relationships, awareness, voices, and engagement.
I could go. I mean, small actions matter. You should be brave. You should go out and do things that challenge you, do things that are hard. Have conversations with people that you maybe don't want to talk to, because here's the thing, like, I think we are all oftentimes stuck in our bubble. I have a nice bubble with my friends in my community who all think and talk the way that I do and believe in the same things that I do. But that is, it's great on a certain level, but that is not how growth happens, and that's not how society changes. And what we need to do instead is what hasn't been done lately, is looking at other people who you might be like, you're nuts, and you are so different from me, and I don't even know what you are talking about, but finding some sort of connection with that. And we're all human beings. We all have flaws. We all have different opinions, and those different opinions, you know, that's just how it is, right? But learning to accept opinions, having conversations that are decent, having conversations that recognize the humanity of someone across from you, I think are incredibly important. I think it's hard to do. I think it's easy to fall into assumptions and saying, I don't want to have that conversation, but I think that's the best way to be brave.
I think for me, to be brave, I think you have to empathize with others, right? Empathize with other people, empathize with the immigrants that are in the border, empathize with the Haitian community right now, because we kind of need it. We've been targeted so much this past month, and it really hurts, and it's spreading a lot of hate, right? So empathize with us. I think listen to our stories. It's very important as well. Ask questions and whatnot. So you can relate, right? Because if you don't know my story, then you cannot relate to me. If you have to know my story. The other thing I want to mention is also volunteer, right, to help in whatever it is that that is going on in your community. That would also help as well.
And I was going to add the same thing. One way to be brave is to do community service, volunteer. Myself at Catholic Charities, we have a lot of people who are in need, who do need some sort of assistance. So helping people who are less fortunate, if you can give them at least a little bit of your time, that will go a long way in helping somebody.
Yeah. Thank you all for such a powerful and informative discussion, and I really do want to open it up to the audience. And if you guys have any questions for our panelists here, would love to hear your input and create this into a conversation. Yes?
This question might be actually for you. Can you explain the difference in disinformation and misinformation?
Yeah, absolutely. So misinformation is particularly just false information with no malintent, but it does get spread and it's false and can be verifiable as false. And then disinformation is spread with malicious intent.
I have a comment.
Yes, please.
I heard a lot about fact checking. People are lazy. I like to fact check. And I'm of the very older generation. out that a lot of people, because of their laziness, enjoy sending something forward that they want to be correct, but it isn't. It's misinformation or disinformation. So it's more laziness than anything else that prevents people from doing fact checking, challenging others.
Takes a lot of time.
Repeat the question.
Sorry.
Can you repeat the question?
Do you want to repeat your comment?
I'm sorry, it was a comment, not a question. It has to do with people who find fact-checking a step that they feel is unnecessary because they've heard something that they really want to believe. So it's easy to just click and pass it.
I agree.
I can project.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, interesting comment, and so I want to take that and ask, as experts in this field of like, yes, fact check, how do you encourage someone else to like get out of that malaise of being lazy? Because like we all want each other to be better, and like the instant gratification that our phones have given us and the internet is just like very addicting of like, I know what I saw, so it's absolutely right. How do you encourage someone to break out of that habit? Because initially in school, theoretically, we were all taught to fact check, to like ask questions. Like this is what a lot of our teachers encourage us. How do you, adult to adults, completely out of the classroom, encourage an adult to like adopt a positive behavior? And I ask that because like I sometimes can be lazy, and also I'm like, how do you not just ask that question of like, didn't it seem ridiculous? Don't you want to ask? How do you have that conversation without coming across as like, oh wow, that was ridiculous? You know, like, because people become defensive so quickly. How do you encourage them to not be lazy without it seeming like, oh well, I'm late. Oh, you're calling me lazy? Well, obviously I'm a bad person and I hate you now. Something like that. It becomes so emotionally charged.
It does.
How do you have that conversation getting around it?
So I think that's a great question, and I think, but I don't think it's easy, right? Like, you know, because you don't want to come say like, you're lazy. We're all a little lazy. I'm lazy about a lot of things, but you know, particularly laundry. But you know, there's like all these things, right? But I think, you know what I actually think helps is curiosity, like actual true curiosity about an individual and their point of view. Why do you think that? Why do you think that this group of people eats this certain animal? Why do you think that this group has taken over this like building? Because I read the news. Well, what news did you read it on, and what did it say? It said X. But why do you think people would do that? Well, I think once you have that, it opens it up because it's less judging, right? Like I think the problem with these conversations is that people feel judged, and when they feel judged, they act defensively, right? And so it is, instead of saying you're wrong and I'm going to judge you because you did not fact check, it is instead saying like, I'm so curious as to why you think that that is correct, and can you tell me why? And it might not get you the whole way all the time, but I think as you get into the habit of it, I think then that person might also think, like for the next time, be like, why do I think this? Why do I think this is correct? I don't think it works for everyone. I'm just going to throw that out there. We're all different people. It works for some people, it doesn't work for others. But I think the more that we do it as a society, the more that we are curious about one another, and the more that we have instances where we will talk to one another, the better. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Well, I'd like to say to trust yourself and know that there is more goodness in the world than badness in the world. And the evidence of that is here and everywhere. Here. We're safer here. We're safe here. And also, Donald Trump and all those guys, they lie. They're liars. We know all that. I think that only ignorant people are following Donald Trump. And so for you, when they say those kinds of things, the gig is up. Everybody already knows what kind of people those are. And if you're watching every day, people are turning one by one away from that. The last thing I'll say is that you can't convince anybody of something that they don't want to hear, but you can lead by example. So if there's people around you who you're worried about, don't try and scold them, don't try and lead by example. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi. Do I need a mic? No, I don't, but I want to use one. I think that what is going on here is definitely so connected to what BRAVE stands for. I have the honor of serving on the BRAVE board, Max, and I think that along with my other BRAVE board members, Eva, where's David? They're having a snack. Theo right there you go. I think that by us having conversations with people, even if they might be liars, by having conversations with people, then we start to raise certain awareness. We start to engage. And by that perfect scenario of asking questions, why do you think like that? I would like to understand you better, creates an opportunity. And it's an opportunity that comes out of not judging people, trying to bridge a divide, finding the similarities. And it's not easy. It's not easy when there's a lot of tension, a lot of stereotypes on immigration and etc. But we have to keep on trying, because it's through that we can be brave and we can take it to the next level. Thank you.
Okay, so my question is rooted in mental health, in the sense that there is rhetoric that is happening against certain sets of people. What do you do, or what are some ways that you would advise people to be able to cope with that? Like, I know that you mentioned that you have a bubble, but sometimes a bubble isn't always enough. So what are some self-care practices for people who are experiencing that, or it's like very heightened in the moment? Like, what are some things you would suggest for them to do?
Well, thank you for that question. I probably won't be the best person to, I guess, give medical advice, but what I tend to do is when I'm feeling really stressed, I just hang out with my family. I have a 2-year-old son. We just go out, try to do as much as we can to just get out of that current stress environment. Or I know a lot of people maybe suffer from depression, mental health, or anxiety. Speaking to somebody, a therapist or a family friend, can help people a lot at that time. So to me, it's just spending time with family is what helps me out.
I think that question is so good for my husband to answer as a physician. Can you come over and answer that
As far as the health care person, I would like to put this in a different way, right? Yeah. Social media to me only represents 10% of the world. You know, there are 90% of the world out there with a different mindset, different personality, and all those things. You know, the behavior is mean. Social media is basically you're in a room with 100 people, and you have that mindset that loudest voice or better or something like that, and that's what the social media is. So what I tell people is think about the goodness of the world. Think about 90 other people who are thinking the right thing and not making you think of all the things which is going on in the world. So that kind of helps to have that perspective that, 90% of people are thinking normally, 10% of people are thinking not so normal. So that's one thing. Second thing, as far as the medical advice is concerned, something just de-stress. Find a technique, find a way where you want to de-stress yourself, do something, take a break. What do you call it? Media hygiene, where some word like that, like where you basically cut yourself off from some media for some time, and that might help out because it's a perspective that you don't want to hear. But again, have as mentioned, engage with your family, do things which you like, not thinking about having a social connection with people. Those kind of things helps because remember, pandemic, all the anxiety went up because we were not able to connect with other people. And now you should be able to make that connection with other people and those kind of things. And of course, talk to your therapist. So,
Thank you, husband.
Thank you for putting that. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and just to quickly add on, I think just like as a young person, like at least setting boundaries like for myself in like exactly what you said, like the media hygiene. I'm not sure if that's like the term, but I've heard it too. Just really being mindful of like the fact that we're like evolutionarily programmed to like know the information of 150 people around us, not millions of people from other parts of the world. So just being mindful that like this isn't natural and that we have to set boundaries for ourselves and creating more divisions between like our life and then seeking out that information. Yeah, definitely, yes.
Hi, my name is David. And I just have much better work, so excuse me if I drool or something. I think the second word in the name of this organization is actually the most important to point out. We are meant to live in active relationship with one another. Long before COVID, this country, while education has been arcing left, shall we say, if we're going to use an inaccurate binary, domination has been arcing right. We have become more and more disconnected from our neighbors. We have empowered such disconnection by allowing / supporting and enabling developments that gentrify and regentrify, that make communities where people know one another, the way we historically talk about our ancestors and our elders. Oh yeah, I remember I used to know. We don't really know our neighbors in general anymore. And all of the media that pumps in is meant to empower distrust instead of connection. All of the while, under the guise of right to choose your child's education, we are ripping away resources and influence from the very space that many of us grew up knowing it's a space where critical thinking was actually planted as an example in our heads and practices. Most of us went to school at a time where we had to learn how to prove both sides instead of having the backdoor exit of, I don't want my kid to learn this crap so they don't have to learn it. That same arc of domination has turned reproductive rights into such a battlefield. To be very blunt, the people with the values that I would most like to see in the upcoming generations are the ones who seem pushed to take the stand against reproduction because it's being forced. And when choice is taken from you, if you're about that life, you're going to resist. And then I look at a future where the next generations are overpopulated by the very people who are being the most harmful and arcing towards domination. I know the MC and her mom because I know they have a dog named Nico and a dad named Rafael because they were my neighbors. 2 doors down. Great people. Darwin Hamilton over there is one of the first black men I met when I got into this social movement work. He was a panelist on one of the first panels I went to that Emlyn hosted long before she picked me for her original board. I know Daniel Llanes because we had dinner after his daughter announced her mayoral run. And I know his daughter because she's the CAPA and has done dope work, and we did dope work together. That's what community looks like when you look around and you see that purpose always brings you back in contact with the people who really are in line with your values. So I say all that to lay the foundation for this very strong truth. We have to have conversations like this and nurture and enable spaces like this, because all of the areas in which we have become complacent, knowing that those would host and hold those conversations, are becoming fewer and fewer. So if we don't do it, rest assured they will be taken away.
Yes, absolutely. We'll get you right there, and then you next. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, my name is Siko. That was actually earlier on. I just wanted to add on what you were saying, that understanding how the human brain works, I think to me is the answer to all these questions. Understanding the psychology of the person in front of you, so that can help you to talk to them, to talk to their hearts. You know, I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Let's get a little wait.
Let's go.
All right. I did have a question because my friend here mentioned mental health, and then we mentioned community and spaces and things like that. It seems like you each occupy different spaces, different responsibilities. And I remember being a part of a community as well, where when we did have elections, and I've seen how the results of the election, depending on whomever won, broke down a lot of people because they felt like, okay, it's done for me, or it's not great for me. And the spaces that I was in were immigrant spaces, of course. But now I'm in a space also with college students and young students. And I see them on campus, and I see people on campus encouraging them to vote, and some of them to register, some of them walk past it. But no matter what the result of the election is, what spaces within your own spaces, or will you be able to? What spaces will you be able to create for, let's say, immigrants or students? Because we do encourage young people to vote, and some of them do. But when they do vote and let's say the election doesn't go their way, what spaces do we create for them to know how to handle this properly, or grieve, or be able to have someone to speak to when the results are out?
Great question.
That's a lovely question. I think it's really hard to answer as well, but I'll give like my 2 cents, and then I'll let my panelists also discuss it. I think the spaces where folks already are, going to where folks are, encouraging them no matter what the results of the election, to come and connect with one another. I think that people feel very disconnected. The times that I feel the worst is when I don't talk to anyone, right? And I'm like the globe is warming, and like nothing is happening, and the election's in 20 days, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like I feel very like I'm all by myself in this, right? And so I think finding places where people already are, college campuses, for the communities that we serve, a lot of that are community centers where groups have already congregated or tend to congregate themselves, right? Or like certain restaurants where I know we've held some like sessions, some community education sessions, things like that, going there and encouraging people to come to find community, to not feel alone. Don't watch the election returns by yourself. You know what I mean? Like I think people do worse when we are isolated and we feel isolated. And the ways to not feel isolated is to be around people, right? And I think one of the best ways to reach out to folks, especially new young voters who are real like I'm gonna vote, it's gonna be awesome, and then it doesn't turn out the way that they want it to, is to go to where they are and where they already tend to be, where they already tend to congregate, and encourage them to come out again. Like if they come to register to vote, if they've actually come out to register, like they've actually voted, like students, groups congregate in different places, right? And I think people will find those spaces if you advertise them and make them, right? I don't know, that's just what I think.
Thank you for the question. That is an excellent question. I think, because one thing that I was thinking as you were speaking is, oh my goodness, I never thought about it that way. Because one thing it will do to them is if the election doesn't go their way, they may not vote again. They may say, what's the point of me voting? When I voted, it didn't go my way. So again, having a community for these young voters, right? So they can feel an environment where they feel safe, where they can actually talk about what makes them upset about the election that didn't go their way. Having an open panel where they can just sit and have their opinion heard, pretty much. And lastly, at last resort, maybe having a therapist, talk to a therapist, I think. That would help as well. If it gets serious, but that's pretty much it, I think, for me.
Can I also add, I think also because we talk about technology, and I think this is also a good use of technology as well too. We talk about it being a double-edged sword, but if people can't get to places or they feel like they don't want to go out, people are on their phones and having groups where online somewhere where people can get together and commiserate and share and what their feelings are and grieve or celebrate, I think are also important if people don't want to go out to certain spaces as well.
So when I heard your question, I was thinking back of when I voted back in 2016, and a lot of my classmates, I was back in UT, we were in our constitutional law class, and we just started talking to our professor, and the professor was willing to speak to our concerns, and he reassured us that the election for the majority of our students, for the students in that class, did not go the way that they had thought it was going to go. But it opened up a discussion because we saw both sides, people who voted for Trump and people who voted for Hillary. So it opened up a space for us to I guess, seek reassurance, grieve. But that, to me, helped me, I guess, have a better understanding of my vote probably didn't go the way that I wanted, but it reassured me that if I keep voting, hopefully my vote will change or matter the way that I want it to go. In our organization at Catholic Charities, sometimes we do immigration 101s. So we invite communities to know about immigration. I'm not sure when our next event will be, but we talk about the history of immigration and what the consequences of people who are, I'm sorry, not the consequences, but the different results of immigrating. And I more than likely think that after the election we will have an immigration 101, and depending on the results, a talk about what may change on the immigration side if Trump becomes president.
Don't say that.
I'm talking. It's just we're talking about.
In the consideration of time, I am going to take just one more question. So I know you have your
yes,
ready.
it's not a question. I just wanted to take advantage of all the discussion about voting. My name is Llanes, and I'm a volunteer with the League of Women Voters. And, I believe in turning my pain into purpose, so I found an organization with the League that's all about empowering voters, defending democracy. That's literally the mission. We have these voter guides up here, nonpartisan. You can take these with you when you go vote, super important, and other goodies. Please come see me. But what I wanted to share with you all, how many of you here are over the age of 30? How many are under the age of 30? Under 30. voters and using our power. And I have a pie chart, and I think you can probably see it if I hold it up, but it says, do you know how many people vote? And this is from the governor's election in 2022 in Texas. The dark color in the pie chart, 46% are those that voted. That means less than half of Texas voters that were eligible and registered to vote voted for the governor. What do you think might have happened if the other 54% had bothered to show up and vote? We may have had a different result. And I'm nonpartisan here today, so I'm not saying one way or another, but more than half didn't even show up. So you have the power. And if we look at the data, 18 to under 30, that is the largest group of voters where more of those age registered voters don't vote than do. So young people, and that's the one piece of disinformation I want to dispel. If you hear anyone say that you don't have power, your voice doesn't matter, your vote doesn't matter, that is absolutely false, particularly in the state of Texas. The last thing I will say on that is, it's not just about the president. We have a Senate race in the state of Texas, and if you go all the way down the ballot, we have school board seats, we have city council seats, and some of those local races impact you and your life more on a day-to-day basis than that top-of-the-ticket presidential race. So it absolutely matters for you to show up and vote. And there was a race in my community, I live in Pflugerville, Texas, a school board seat that was decided by 3 votes. That's like one family, I'm serious. So it absolutely matters, don't believe anyone that tells you otherwise. Thank you.
Yes, Emily passed me the mic here. Thank you. More of an observation. Thank you for holding space today, Brave and Emily. But I'm listening to all the conversations and thinking, yes, we're 20 days before the election, and what are we going to be doing 20 days after the election? Regardless of which way the election goes, these types of conversations, as has been discussed, are really beneficial, and I think continue to move the needle forward to bridging those divides that we have. A lot of us in this room may feel one way about immigration, and I'm guilty of not really hearing what the other side may say. And so how do we bring people who are not like-minded to spaces with us to have these conversations? So maybe that is something that we can think about, over the next few weeks and, the next year. Just how to engage more with people that are not, we don't have the same, we're not aligned on a lot of things. And taking the time to hear what they have to say. I have someone I feel like, right? I don't talk politics with my brother because we don't really see, but maybe I need to listen a little bit more. So just putting that out there as far as looking for more community connections, conversations, and we can all help maybe move the needle towards bridging that gap.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we're going to reopen the floor soon to Danielle, and thank you so much to our audience for answering and offering such powerful insight. It means so much, I know, to everyone in this community, and thank you so much, Maëlle, Edna, and Sebastian, so much for your amazing insights. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you so much, Sophia. Thank you again, Sebastian, Edna, and Maëlle. And while Daniel gets ready, I also just want to thank you for everyone's participation. I do again want to give a shout out to our board members. Look at the love. Theo, David, Eva just left, Matt. So thank you for the board members. Thank you for our volunteers. And also, just what everyone was talking about at the panel, like being engaged. So like always, there's opportunities to volunteer here with Brave, so many other groups. I know Catholic Charities, American Gateways. Thank you also to Claudia at the League of Women Voters, and please pick up her information. It's such a great resource.
So thank you, thank you. If you want to know more about ways to be engaged with Brave, we have volunteer opportunities. We also have a thing called a membership, just to be able to keep these programs that we offer to the community free and to the public. Our next one, we're not having as many this fall just because the holidays coming up, the elections are coming up, and so it's the blink of the eye will be the new year. So our next community event will be MLK in the mid-January. And so just like, sorry, Janji was saying, our whole goal is like, always invite people, even those that, may not look like you, think like you, act like you, or vote like you, or, invite them, and that might be a way to diplomatically hold space and have these conversations. And so we'll do the same with our Brave Young Leaders. We always encourage them to use their voice to kind of influence people that may not even know about some of these topics that we talk about. So without further ado, thank you so much.
Thank you once again for inviting me and including me in this. A lot of times if you'll see me perform, I'm doing background music or just playing stuff. So it's always an opportunity to, I always take advantage of an opportunity to give the kind of art that is meaningful and is part of our experience. So I'm going to end with 2 numbers. One is called Make It So, and I would suggest to everyone that you not repeat what you don't want. If you're afraid Trump is going to get elected, don't say he's going to get elected. Well, I'm talking about vibration. In our vibrations, when we express the word is power. So keep it positive, right? Okay. So that's what this is about. What kind of world do you want? What kind of world do you want to see? What kind of world do you want? What kind of world do you